Thank you for the encouragement. When you come to this podium, usually you have, even though I've just witnessed such an energetic dance, my butterflies are still flying in different directions in my tummy. So I need another clap to put them in order. Thank you so much. I know you want to be called by a different name, but in my speech I had said Master of Ceremony, but I will change to Events Director, our ED. I would like to recognize you. And I would also like to recognize, in this particular order, our host and convener of this Energy Forum for Africa, Engineer Hope Chanda. I want to recognize you. I would also like to recognize our very important partner tonight, this morning, Your Excellency, Brigadier General W.C. Tembo, retired, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Zambia to Zimbabwe. I hope I got it right, because I would like to recognize any permanent secretary who is here. We had invited some, but I know we have a number of ongoing programs and conferences which are conflicting today. I think for the past 2 weeks, it's been very difficult to bring together a lot of senior government officials. There's so much which is ongoing. I would also like to recognize the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, if he's here or in absentia. I would like to recognize the directors of the Ministry of Energy and Power Development, the CEO of, acting CEO of ZESA Holdings. I know he's going to join us later today. And our acting CEO of ZRIA, who has just given us their presentation. The representatives from the different state enterprises, the Rural Electrification Fund, the different subsidiaries of ZESA is provided for in a wonderful presentation by Ailana. We also want to recognize any representatives from our ZIDA, which is the Zimbabwe Investment Development Authority, and other state enterprises here presented. I would like to recognize our regional body, Executive Director for SAP. I would like to recognize different representatives from our local authorities, if they are here, the banks, development partners, pension funds, insurance companies, anyone who is here to help us and work with us to ensure investments become possible is welcome. But also, very importantly, our different investors within the energy space, represented by our independent power producers and the Renewable Energy Association of Zimbabwe, the members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gloria Magombo, as indicated earlier by the events director. But today I'm not Gloria Magombo. I'm actually representing our Honourable Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honourable J.G. Moyo MP, who has other urgent commitments and was not able to join us today. So please, Honourable Moyo, not Engineer Magombo. So I just thought I'll put it up there so that you are very clear who is now going to be speaking. I also want to recognize our Deputy Minister, who is away on official business as well. She was not able to come and represent the Honourable Minister. So it is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Government of Zimbabwe to this inaugural Zimbabwe edition of the Energy Forum for Africa, ZimEFA, held under the theme Investment Opportunities in Zimbabwe's Energy Transition. But because I'm speaking as the minister believes in energy expansion. He says once you say transition, it's like you are excluding certain energy forms. But when you talk about expansion, you are saying everything is on the table, it can be used, and as long as it is done in an environment which makes it clean, that's what we are looking at. So this forum brings together government, investors, financiers, industry leaders, researchers, innovators, and development partners to unlock the investment that will shape Zimbabwe's sustainable energy future. This is more than a conference. It's a platform where ideas become partnerships, innovation meets opportunity, and shared ambition is translated into real projects. Zimbabwe stands at a defining moment in this energy journey. Our energy sector is evolving into a more diversified, competitive, and liberalized market with abundant renewable energy resources, also critical energy minerals, wealth, and a clear commitment to sustainable development. Zimbabwe offers significant investment opportunities across the entire energy value chain. These opportunities result from the economic development which we have seen over the past 7 years, driven by the growth in mining and agriculture, but most importantly by the policy decision of government led by His Excellency to ensure beneficiation and moving up the value chains in both agriculture and mining, which has resulted in serious industrialization and hence the demand for a reliable and affordable energy supply, which is critical and is the backbone to industrialization of any economy. Our target as an energy sector, which is from our vision, which reads together with the national vision of being an upper middle income society by 2030, is that by 2030 we want to have 100% household access to modern energy by connecting approximately 320,000 households to the national grid. Of that 320, we are also looking at the 200,000, actually it's connected 320,000 households to an energy, oh my goodness me, the phone is distracting me. Let me switch it off from here. I can feel that it's ringing from my phone. We are targeting 100% household access by connecting 320 households per annum. These connections will be through the extension of the grid, and about 200,000 will be mainly through off-grid solutions every year between now and 2030. At the same time, we are modernizing generation capacity, expanding our transmission and distribution networks, and accelerating investments in clean coal technologies, solar, hydro, wind, and other innovative renewable energy technologies. Our goal is to increase renewable energy generation from the current 1,282 megawatts, which we had in 2024, to about 2,640 by 2030. That's excluding the Batoka project, which we expect to come after 2030, between 2032 and 2035, representing almost half of Zimbabwe projected generation capacity. We also aim to increase the contribution of the renewables, excluding large hydro, from the current 7.8% to 29% in the energy mix. And we are also working closely with the different partners, both from households which have connected renewable energy equipment onto their rooftops, industry through commercial and industrial systems, And this year we are expecting to breach the 100 megawatt power, which we will be getting through net metering. And we expect that by 2030, we would have gone beyond 200 megawatts just from net metering. These are people who are putting up their own systems as industries, as homes, as schools, as clinics and hospitals, and they are feeding access to the grid. And we want to continue to acknowledge that they have been part of the solution to ensure that we today can proudly speak of almost 200 days without load shedding because of the different players within the energy sector who have been working tirelessly to ensure that we have sufficient energy, including the large consumers who have built captive power plants and the other private sector which have built independent power IPPs who are feeding onto the grid. So beyond electricity, we are also targeting to increase access to clean cooking solutions from 38.6% to 70% by 2030. And our rural electrification program at the moment is targeting to ensure 100% access by schools, clinics, and other government institutions by possibly mid next year. We wanted to do it by the end of this year, but I think we are revising the target to make sure by mid-year, because most of the time this year has been on procurement, we should be achieving 100% access to modern energy, both on-grid and off-grid, by our schools in rural areas and clinics and government institutions. So there is not just national development targets. These are not just national development targets. They represent bankable investment opportunities for those who want to be part of the Zimbabwe industrial transformation. Distinguished guests, Zimbabwe's strategic location positions us as a natural hub for regional energy trade through the Southern African power pool. I know that they will be speaking to this issue, but we as a country are also players within that pool. So investments in Zimbabwe energy infrastructure, therefore, are not just looking at the Zimbabwean market, but they are looking at the regional market, which is not just going to be targeting the Southern African SADC countries, but we are looking at the unified African Union single market, electricity market, as we continue to work towards the integration between Zambia and the Tanzanian market, which will now link us to the East African power pool. And we believe that we can also be linked to the Central African power pool through our interconnectivity with DRC and also potentially to the West African power pool. So the opportunity of investing in Zimbabwe is not just looking at the Zimbabwean market, but we are looking at the regional market as well. And within the energy space, we also speak to, I know the conference was convened by people who deal more with the electricity sector, but as Zimbabwe, we're also looking at ourselves as a regional hub for the trade of fuel products. And to that extent, we have upgraded our fuel pipeline from Beira to Harare here in Masasa, from 2.1 billion liters per year to 3 billion. And we are already operating at above 90% capacity. And hence, we have instituted the next level of upgrade from the 3 billion to 5 billion. And we are hoping that by end of next year, our pipeline will be 5 billion liters per year. And we have also signed a pipeline and a fuel pipeline and gas with the Republic of Zambia, where we are looking at the extension of the pipeline to the north through Chirundu to Lusaka. And we are looking at an intergovernmental team which is looking at how best we can ensure that this happens. So we are looking for regional countries who want to diversify their supply routes, given the current regional, international geopolitical challenges, which will allow us to be able to interlink. And we are also talking to the Dangote Group, who want to run the pipeline from Namibia through Botswana into Zimbabwe. And we believe that once we interconnect the region, we will then have better security of supply at a regional level. And allow me to also reaffirm government's commitment to the Batoka Gorge hydroelectric project, which has already been mentioned by Engineer Chisenze. Following the resolution of the Council of Ministers, the project is now to proceed under a special purpose vehicle that will own the project, mobilize debt financing, and manage project risk. The governments of Zimbabwe and Zambia will jointly retain majority equity stake, while the private sector is invited to participate as equity investors, financiers, or EPC plus financiers with a minority stake. Each government has committed to contribute 220 million towards the construction of the dam, while both governments will provide the supporting infrastructure. This is mainly on the dam, whilst the actual power plants will be open as IPP projects or as PPP projects, depending on how these will move forward. So we are looking at the two governments committing up to $440 million towards the building of the dam. And it's very important because we are saying we have the skin in the game. As government, we are also willing to take the risk. So the establishment of the SPV will mark a formal commencement of one of Africa's most strategic hydroelectric projects. I'm sure ZRA will speak more to that. I've seen that in the program, and he also mentioned it in his opening remarks. Government alone cannot finance the scale of investment required to transform the energy space. Over the next 5 years, we have streamlined our projects to say the key projects which we need to be developed are adding up to about $9.1 billion US dollars in generation, transmission, distribution, off-grid electrification, and clean cooking, of which 4.42 billion is expected to come from the private sector. This is a commitment which has been made through our energy compact. And I'm aware that Madam Chanda, in her opening remarks, did speak to some of the targets which we have within our energy compact. But the key pillars of that compact is that we need to expand our generation capacity. We also want to increase our interconnection within the regional pool and build more interconnectors. And we want to expand the distribution networks. And we are looking at the engagement of private sector to work with government for that. Under the regional integration, we will remain a key player. And I'm sure within the presentation from SAPP, they will speak to some of the regional interconnectors. But as government, we have and we are leading in doing the first phase of Zizabona, where we will be interconnecting with our neighbor Zambia through the initial phase of Ziza project from Wange to Mukuni. But we continue to trade within the Southern African power pool as our energy security is secured through both local production and imports from the regional pool. We are also under the third pillar looking at distributed solar and clean cooking solutions. We have a number of projects which we've identified through our Rural Electrification Fund, over 200 mini grids, which are available for private sector to come in. And we have done some feasibility studies for about 100 of those grids, which the Rural Electrification Fund will be willing to discuss with potential developers to ensure that together we move towards achieving the universal access target. Private sector participation has remained core to our energy security and self-sufficiency, and we have put in various policies which will be discussed and at a later stage in more detail, where we are inviting them to participate not just within the generation space, but we are looking at the interconnection in terms of distribution side, and also in future potentially concessionaring some of the transmission networks. We remain at a policy level believe that the transmission network remains critical, and we will concessionaire it, but it will remain mainly state-owned, as we believe it serves more as a road than just an interconnection. Our role as government is to create an enabling environment where independent power producers, captive power producers, financiers, and technology providers can invest with confidence. We have also developed infrastructure regulations related to the provision of backbone infrastructure within the distribution space, which will enable private sector to help accelerate the connection of the underserved urban communities. Pilot projects some of the pilot projects will include Cowdrey Park. I think we are also going to look at some projects here in Harare, where there will be private sector participation. I think Caledonia is one of those which will be considered for that. There will be a call for investments and private sector participation. So we are inviting our banks and private investors to partner with the government through this smart partnership. And we have also drafted various regulations related to net metering, where we have expanded the scope of net metering to I think we are moving to 10 megawatts from 5 megawatts, that if you have your own rooftop system above 5 megawatts and you want to interconnect to the grid, you can do that net metering up to that level. For now, I think we are at 5 megawatts. But we have realized that there are lots of commercial and industrial systems which are sitting around that space. So they are welcome to interconnect. The amendments into the virtual net metering are also being considered, such that if you are supplying through your net metering through a particular supply point and you also want your other entity on the other side of the network to be supplied for that, you will then be allowed to do that. So that is what we refer to as virtual net metering, and we believe that it will help to strengthen the multiple points of supply, but also create credits for those who want to supply their other customers within the same network. They also will improve regulatory clarity, strengthen financial and operational obligations, and establish transparent arrangements for taxes, levies, reconciliation procedures, and compensation for excess electricity exported to the grid. These reforms will optimize distributed renewable energy and improve investor confidence and strengthen grid stability. Ladies and gentlemen, energy projects require innovative financing. Blended finance, combining government support, development finance, and private investments, provides an effective pathway for projects from project conception to financial close. And Zimbabwe remains committed to structuring investments that reduce risks while accelerating project implementation. We also recognize that promising projects should never be delayed by bureaucracy or fragmented decision making. So government is streamlining approvals, strengthening governance, and improving institutional coordination because viable projects must move from paper to implementation. Investor confidence depends on certainty. Zimbabwe continues to align its energy policies with regional and international best practice to create a transparent, predictable, and bankable investment environment. This complements the government broader statement of saying Zimbabwe is open for business agenda, under which licensing costs are being reduced, regulations simplified, and public services increasingly digitalized to improve the ease of doing business. Distinguished delegates, commitments alone do not power homes or industries. Execution is what matters. That is why government has introduced the Government Project Support Agreement to de-risk private investments, and this GPSA provides fiscal incentives, including tax concessions, whilst protecting investors against adverse changes in law and expropriation. It establishes a comprehensive legal framework that allocates risks fairly, promotes transparency, and enhances project bankability. The pilot implementation is already underway. We have a project which is demonstrating that we can, together with private sector, come up with conditions which are acceptable on both sides. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is more than exchange of ideas. It is a catalyst for partnerships, innovation, and investment. Whether you are an investor, policymaker, financier, technology provider, or development partner, I encourage you to use this platform to build relationships, identify opportunities, and contribute to Zimbabwe's energy transition.